You always have to dress for the job. Here's your look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, The Dark Knight Returns, Armored Batman. As a child, Bruce Wayne watched as his parents were brutally killed in Gotham City's crime alley. Traumatized by their deaths, he devoted his life to becoming the world's greatest weapon against crime, the Batman. He's a master detective and an expert martial artist, but his greatest weapon is his mind. Batman has a plan for every occasion, as well as high-tech weapons, gadgets, and vehicles to assist him in his relentless pursuit of justice. Now, after 10 years in retirement, Batman returns in an armored suit and ready for an epic battle to determine the fate of the Earth. Just before Batman starts a fight with Supes, we first figure out how tall the figure stands. I'm going to take my ruler and going to put it right to the very top of Batman's head. And in this case, he's actually taller than 8 inches, more or less 8¼ inches in height, which works out to being the figure about 21 centimeters tall. And to show you what an 8-inch tall Batman looks like with a regular DC Multiverse figure, let's bring in Superman. I assure you, I haven't shrunk down the Man of Steel. This is actually the proper size of this figure. I think Batman is way too tall. Even factoring in the fact he does have lifts in his boots to make him a little taller, I think he's still too tall compared to a regular Superman. Now, we are getting ourselves the Dark Knight Returns wave that's going to have that Build-A-Horse. Can't even believe I'm saying that. There's going to be a Build-A-Figure of Batman's horse. We are getting a Superman as part of that wave that might be a little taller than a regular Superman, but I still feel like all these figures should be scaled accordingly. So if you don't decide to pick up that Superman for yourself and say you just want to display him like next to a regular Superman, Batman's not going to look that much bigger than him. Another comparison we can make is bring in the Superboy Prime, who was already taller than the regular Superman, and yeah, he is still taller than Superman, but still a lot shorter than Batman. We can also move over Superman over here for a second and bring in the likes of Lobo. Any chance I get to bring in Lobo, first of all, because he's such a cool figure, but also because he's taller, too. He's not that much taller, really, than Armored Batman. Just let that sit in for a second. Lobo does have the lift in his hair, but really, when it's all said and done, his shoulders meet at about the same place as Armored Batman's. And I think, again, Armored Batman is maybe just a tad too tall. Anyways, the figure doesn't come with much in the way of accessories. It comes with some swappable hands we'll look at in a second, and then it comes included with the display stand and the trading card. Looking first at the display stand, there's nothing really new to report here, other than this DC logo seems a bit worn off on the side. Thank goodness I have at least another 100 or so of these kicking around. But yeah, it's certainly good. I mean, I'm not going to knock the fact that we do get ourselves a display stand. It certainly helps to put the figure in more dynamic poses. Although Batman doesn't seem to have, knock on wood, any issues right now standing on his own. Move that to the side. The figure also comes included with a trading card. Trading card, once again, is using the figure photography. So that's a closer look at what Batman looks like. I like the armor, looks good. I'll give it that. Down below it says Armored Batman from Batman, The Dark Knight Returns. Flipping around to the back, it only really lists his real name. It doesn't list his height, his weight. I mean, I'd be curious to know how heavy of a suit this would be. And then also gives you a little paragraph read up as well. You can either pause and read for yourself, or it's also so happens to be the same thing I read at the beginning of this review. How about that? I'm going to put that to the side. And like I said, the only other thing that Batman comes included with is some swappable hands. The thing about it, though, is that the figure doesn't come included with any weapons. Now, I know recently they have a mandate where they really can't use weapons or release weapons with their DC Multiverse releases, but, I mean, I think when it comes to more futuristic-looking guns, why couldn't they have just packaged Batman along with a sonic gun, for example? Because that doesn't look like a regular, everyday gun, unless, I mean, the rules are we just can't include guns or weapons of that sort at all with these figure releases. Because again, like when you're looking at him, right there, he has a hand suited for holding a weapon. Anyways, though, he comes with these other swappable hands. These are basically more strangling Superman hands. And again, when we do eventually have a look at that Dark Knight Returns set, which I've just now pre-ordered them. I think they were slated to release the end of November. I'm looking forward to seeing that set in person. I could certainly display Batman maybe strangling Superman with the included hands, with these hands right here. To change out the hands are super easy. I mean, first of all, stock in his forearms. He's got one closed fist for uppercutting Superman. And then, like I said, on this hand, I mean, it looks like it should be designed for holding a weapon. At least, at the very least, the sonic gun, I think, would have been fine. But again, I don't make these. I don't know what the requirements is to release these figures. Anyways, to change out the hands, while I was talking away, just remove the hands. They're super easy to remove from the larger pegs. And then we'll just replace it with one of the strangling hands. I probably shouldn't even call them strangling hands. I guess they're really more just gestured hands. But that's, it literally is. That's the only accessories that come included with this figure. And it's disappointing. Again, I don't know really the red tape that's involved for McFarlane's team to release these figures. Maybe there's a lot that they have to go through. But again, I just wish that these figures could come included with weapons. Maybe we may get ourselves like gold label release of this particular Batman, where if he's going to a specialty store, maybe they may be able to kind of veer around those requirements and eventually get this guy released with like a sonic gun, for example. Anyways, getting a closer look at the head sculpt. I do like the look of the head. It bears almost a little more of an animated look to it than it does like a realistic looking Batman. I guess in real life, I don't know how Batman would be able to wield around, carry around such a heavy load like this. The armor looks fantastic on this figure. And spin it around so you can see it from the back. First of all, I really like the texturing that they've done to the cape. Looking at it, I mean, I could easily just tell you it's plastic, and you probably could see and know for yourself it's plastic. But it almost has like a fabric look to it. Really like the texturing that they put into the actual cape. And it doesn't have a wide drape either. It's pretty narrow too. So it doesn't, first of all, interfere with the figure's articulation. And second of all, I think especially for a build like this for Batman, I really wouldn't want a super wide cape anyways. Narrow, I think, is really the way to go. Just to look at, though, the texturing that they've done to that. Super, super cool. A very soft plastic, too. Not super, super soft, but certainly soft enough. And I just flip that up so you can see the back end of it. They have sculpted and just put as much work to the back of the figure as they have to the front. I like all these little indentations that he's got to his armor. Like he's made this himself with hammer and maybe like an anvil in his bat cave. I really do think it looks nice. It probably could use a little bit of additional paint, a little bit of extra TLC just to help bring out some of the sculpting of the mold. But I think as it goes stock right now, it looks like a pretty nice sculpt. Again, probably could just use a little bit of a dark wash added over top of it just to help fill in some of those little creases and crevices in his suit. I think that would really help a lot. Of course, underneath all that, he's got a regular bat suit. The suit itself is a very light gray. I feel like it probably could have gone a little darker of a gray. And speaking of darker gray, kind of drawing your attention to his utility belt here. In many of the cases that we've seen this utility belt, I think, well, no, certainly in the animated feature, this was kind of more of a yellow color. They've instead gone with the more gray color. I would have really liked to see what this would have looked like if they had gone yellow instead of the gray. Because there's so much gray already happening on this figure anyways from head to toe. Breaking it up with a little bit of yellow I think certainly would have helped a bit. Not too stark of a yellow, but maybe an off mustard yellow. You can see all the pockets there on the one side of the belt and mirroring that on the other side as well. The detail work again carries on down to his thigh armor as well as his knee pads. Very large, clunky looking boots. You can see the undersoles of the boots seem almost a little more additional silver. I don't know really why, other than it's like a little chipped area of the metal, I'm guessing. There's a little bit of also silver that's made its way down below here. I was actually pleasantly surprised to see that there is articulation in the toe. I really wasn't thinking that that would be the case, simply just because like the feet are so clunky as is. They're big giant shoe boxes. The idea that they would actually put in toe articulation is really a nice touch on their part. Checking out the articulation now on Armored Batman, but one last chance to see this from all the sides. That is a stellar looking head sculpt. I would imagine it would be quite hot underneath all that. You'd take the helmet off, it would just be leaving behind a big pool of sweat. Really gross sweat. Anyways, though, looking at the head sculpt, you'd be surprised how much mileage this head sculpt gets afforded. I don't know if they've added a longer post inside the cavity of the head, but you'd be, again, surprised to know that the head looks up quite a bit. Down, it's a little less, just simply because his chin is going to be hitting the top collar piece of his armor. But the idea that you can actually have him looking up at Superman flying above him, that's pretty impressive. The head rocks back and forth fine, and you can also take the head and rotate it all the way around. Again, really wasn't expecting to see that. As for the arms, even though he does have these large shoulder plates there on the tops, and even though he has really large sculpted shoulders, I can get the arms at about 90 degrees. If I hold it up like this, I can get 90. If I let go of it, it drops almost to around 45. But you can get almost about 90 out of that. The arms rotate all the way around. It does also have the socketed joint on the inside. The figure doesn't have necessarily bicep swivel, but what he does get, though, instead, is he does have an elbow rotation, which allows the forearm to rotate all the way around. The elbow does have a single bend, and then his gauntlet also rotates, just grabbing it here, does rotate also as well, and the hands also rotate all the way around, with them hinging back and forth. Torso is going to be a little bit more limited, but he does still have a ball joint. It's not obviously here because they wouldn't want to break up the sculpt of the mold, but it's instead rather further down, right around the area of the utility belt, and that rotates all the way around. As for the legs split out. Seems once again that they're using a ratcheted joint on the insides of the thighs. You bring the legs forward, bring the legs back. There's a mild swivel, of course, the way it's just attached up at the top there. Double hinge on Batman's knees. And then for the boots, something actually I didn't even mention earlier in this review, I should really touch base on right now, is that the boots are using softer plastic. I guess one of the reasons why they've done this is they probably wanted to overlay it over top of a leg that they may be able to use for later on. Maybe like that Dark Knight Returns Batman may start using some of the parts, because like the knee pad is softer plastic. This is harder plastic, but maybe again they're able to use that lower leg for another release down the road, and that's probably one of the reasons why they're using softer plastic. It also helps a little bit too with the foot articulation. If it was harder plastic, you wouldn't really be able to bring the foot up all the way like this, because of course that rigid plastic would stop you dead in your tracks. The feet rock back and forth, and again, I'm really surprised to see that the figure also has toe articulation. It's a good looking Batman, really. Where it comes up just a little bit short, and so somewhat ironic I'm saying that, is the figure doesn't have any accessories. It certainly doesn't come up short with its height, which again, just sliding the figure over, and again, just bring in just a regular Superman. He's just too tall. When we do eventually look at that Dark Knight Returns wave, the Superman, I'm certain, is going to be a lot taller than a regular Supes. But again, I feel like for the purpose of displaying these on the shelf, I would want to really go with the same height for all these figures. And again, in case like this, I think Batman is just too tall compared to a regular Superman DC Multiverse figure. You know, Armored Batman's kind of got me thinking here. Lately, McFarlane Toys has been releasing a lot more of their Gold Edition label figures. Usually that's like a subcategory to their regular DC Multiverse waves. And usually it means that they can re-release figures with a different color variation to their costumes. Sometimes they paint in rips and battle-damaged areas on their bodies. And a lot of times they can release the figures with unmasked head sculpts. They've just recently done that with their Justice League and their Suicide Squad. And why I bring that up is I wonder if they could give similar love here to Armored Batman. Re-release essentially the same figure that we had a look at in this review, but give him maybe slightly more battle-damaged armor, like he's just battled with the Man of Steel. They could also give him an unmasked Bruce Wayne head sculpt, and that might also give them a window available where they can actually give that figure some weapons. Because I gotta admit, you can't go into a battle with a Kryptonian empty-handed, and that's sort of what's happening here with Batman. There's no way he can fight the Man of Steel without some weapon to be included, and it's again a shame that they couldn't include at the very least, his sonic blaster. Other than that, though, the figure does look really nice. He's a tad tall, and again, it doesn't work really well with existing DC Multiverse figures. I would really have to get a better feel for how tall this figure is when we eventually get that Dark Knight Returns wave, which I think is slated to release either like the end of November, the early of December. That Superman's probably going to be a little bit taller, a little bit more animated look. And of course, he's going to fit properly in scale with Batman. I wish that the figure was a little bit shorter so that the figures could be all sort of the same height on their shelf. I get the idea that Batman has lifts in his shoes, but I don't think it should make him that much taller than a regular Superman. He could be a little tad taller, but not as tall as he actually is here. What do you guys think, though, of Armored Batman? Let me know down below in the comments section. Would you be down with the idea of getting a gold label edition release of Armored Batman, maybe with a Bruce Wayne unmasked head sculpt? I always like reading your comments down below. And certainly, if you are enjoying the content that you've been seeing here on this channel, not only as of late, but for a while, we're coming up to, I think, 13 years? 13 years doing this on YouTube. But if you are enjoying the content and you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, turn the bell notification on, and make sure, yes, you're coming back to this channel. While we are finished up things with Armored Batman, there is going to be more DC Multiverse reviews coming your way. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.